Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. Welcome to episode 4 of the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. I'm your host, Tom Walton, joined today by my close friend and mentor, John Weik of Northwest Spur Chasers. I have had the privilege of knowing John for several years, and he's been a major influence in my life. Many of you may know John from his YouTube channel, Northwest Spur Chasers. John is a retired Air Force veteran. Originally from Connecticut, John's military career landed him in eastern Washington state, where he currently resides with his wife, Dawn. John grew up hunting and fishing back east, and he brought his love of the outdoors with him to the Pacific Northwest, where he's pursued everything from elk and deer to bears. John is also an accomplished fisherman and likely missed his call as a fishing guide. All of that being said, John's biggest passion is turkey hunting, a passion he has shared with the world through his hunting films and social media. And finally, John is a selfless man of faith. He loves taking kids and veterans hunting. Most recently, he rallied the outdoor community and raised money to purchase a life-changing piece of equipment for a young man who is essentially paralyzed from the waist down. With all that being said, I'd like to welcome John to the show. John, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, good, Tom. Great to be on the show, and looking forward to seeing this big launch.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get you on and right away. I have a good feeling that you and I are going to probably be on this show together many, many times. So, because we got more to discuss than we can hit in just one podcast.
That's for sure. I mean, you can only do so much in an hour. I wouldn't want to waste too much of the audience this time. They've probably heard too much from me already.
I think you're turning into an addiction for people, man. Everyone's loving you. So thanks for your time. So I guess we'll just go ahead and dive on in with just why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what got you involved in the outdoors?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Well, I mean, as all of us know, there's a lot of aspects to that, but I'll just get some generalizations. I grew up in a very small town of about 350 people, and back in the days, born in 63, so I'll give everybody the direct access to my age. Happy to say it. But, back then I was in the backwoods of Connecticut, small town called New Preston. If you looked at Connecticut as an entity, as a whole map, it would be kind of the northwest corner right on the border of New York a little bit. And of course, when you get to that certain age, it was always good to be able to make a beer run over the mountain and run into New York and grab more. But, those are old days. Anyway, my love of the outdoors started at such a young age as before I could even walk. I was on my dad's shoulders. My dad is my hero for sure. He was 10th Mountain Division, World War II, spent all his time in the Alps, fighting the Germans at numerous locations, very decorated, and his love of the outdoors from the time that he was very young, growing up as a farmer in the countryside with his German family that came directly over. He spoke enough German and helped him a lot in World War II as well. He knew when people were faking, yelling retreat, and it wasn't really one of his own guys.
Man.
But, the passion came from him. When he came back, he brought all of his outdoor skills with him that he gained over there, and he pretty much brought it right into our lives. And even growing up with him in the Scouts, he had us camping through every bit of thick and thin. Everybody understood if we went out with Dad, went out with Mr. Weik from the other guys in Boy Scouts, we're probably going to be cutting a hole in the ice to take a bath. I mean, that was just to the extreme of him. It was winter camping. He loved it. Outdoorsmanship was unbelievable. But his joy for hunting kind of disappeared with World War II, which a lot of us can understand. He had done a lot of shooting over there, and so he just didn't care to hunt animals or anything else anymore when he came back. But he raised me in all the prone positions of proper shooting etiquette, learning from the time I was very young. Rifle, starting, I would say probably he was happy to put me in the woods at the age of 10. Prior to that, we shot all the time from the time I could properly handle any weapon. And, he did hand-to-hand combat with us too. So, we learned a lot of skills of preservation should it come down to that at the last minute.
Hand-to-hand combat. That's pretty cool. That's a good dad. It just reminds me of the relationship I have with my dad, who's also my hero. And
Sure.
I actually want to have him on the podcast someday, maybe like a Father's Day episode, but he used to take me to SWAT practice. So
there you go.
Our dads wanted us to be prepared, I think.
Yep. And your dad's awesome. I would love to hear your dad on there, having met him already myself.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be a good one on the show. I mean, Connecticut was, a great place to grow up for hunting. I walked out the back door and disappeared in the woods all the time after school. It was primarily a whitetail hunting experience, and then lots of different birds. We had pheasant, we had grouse. We didn't have any turkeys back then. They were only in a small location. That didn't happen until after I had left.
Gotcha. So turkey hunting came later in life.
Yeah, that came later in life. I also got to give a little shout out to my grandparents, who were epic fishing people. Even though Dad loved fishing, they were the ones that would wake me up at 3:00 in the morning to go bass fishing. My grandfather would just sneak into the house, had his own key, a little Irishman, Danny O'Sullivan, with a great passion for fishing that was pounded into my brother and I, which is why my brother and I get together every year to fish. But yeah, getting up with him at all hours of the night, he would just roll us out of bed and say, "Hey, come on, it's time to go fishing."
That's
awesome. That access.
Well, he definitely got you started in the right direction, because I know you are still really good at rolling out of bed at ungodly hours in the morning to go fishing and hunting turkeys.
Ain't that the truth?
As I have joined you at those ungodly hours, happily, I will say, though.
It's been fun and successful.
Well, that's awesome. So I love that history back east. I was talking to Sean, from AFI Washington the other day, and I just like hearing stories about back east. Someday I want to get out there, because it just sounds gorgeous when you guys talk about Connecticut, or Tony talks about Connecticut. I'm sure everyone will get to meet Tony Winko one of these days, but sounds beautiful, like the Adirondacks and upstate New York and Connecticut. So got to get out there one day.
Yeah, it is beautiful. The hardwoods are gorgeous. I'm sure it's overpopulated now compared to when I grew up. And Tony's always sending me pictures of John Weik Road, which is always hilarious. My family has a lot of influence back there from the old days, but
that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
I think a lot of people
miss the days of putting your shotgun in your car and going to school and not worrying about it, so you could all go hunting after school.
Yeah, different times, man. And I think a lot of people probably say that the North Idaho and Eastern Washington area is overpopulated now.
Yeah, getting there, isn't it?
But, the woods are still big out here. Good deal. Well, so you grew up hunting and fishing in a beautiful place with some awesome family. I love that. Is it your dad's service that drew you into wanting to serve as well? What was it that got you to join the Air Force?
Well, my parents would say every time they took me to the zoo, all I wanted to do was point up at the airplanes flying over and didn't care about the animals. So I don't know. There's something to that, I guess. But as far as the military, my oldest brother, he joined the military, very successful in the Navy, retired captain. He's down in San Diego. My dad's, World War II history. And then we go back to the Civil War. There's a lot of family in the military everywhere. And so, I don't know, at that time when I was graduating, I was looking at colleges and trying to make a decision. Money was always tight. And I said, I think I'll join the military for 4 years, go see what it's like, and get a hold of whatever I can to help me do schooling at the same time, because we weren't a well-off family at all, even though my brother was very successful in college, but he was getting drafted in, and they were going to draft him in as a grunt during war. Basically, he's like, heck no, I have my 4 years of college. I'm going in as an officer. So that got him in there. And he's like, yeah, you should join. You'll love it. It's a family service. And he goes, join the Air Force. We don't have anybody that's done the Air Force yet, so do that. I mean, we had everything else, Army, Marines, Navy. So I'm like, yeah, why not? I always loved airplanes. I was infatuated with them. And I went as an aircraft mechanic in '83 and enjoyed it very much. 20 plus years of service. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And your service on active duty didn't necessarily, when it ended, didn't necessarily end your service, right? Because you continued on as a contractor after you got out. But what did you retire as rank wise?
I retired as a master sergeant in the Air Force, and that's an E7.
Awesome.
And yeah, I continued on. Hard to walk away from what you know so well, although I had done my 20 plus. I think I would have done a little more, but we were in the desert way more than I wanted to be. And I had brand new little girls I wanted to be a part of rather than missing what was happening at an epic time of their life. So, like, it's time to pull the plug. So I did that. You jumped right into a contract that basically I had set up for aviation maintenance, and did that for another 20 years, which I just recently, last turkey season, decided to retire. So I am fully retired.
Yeah, you could call it that, but you're definitely not lacking any, breaks in your schedule. You've still maintained a very busy lifestyle.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Maintain necessary security clearance, working on planes from all over the world and all kinds of things in the dark that we can't talk about. And it's been a lot of fun.
Good deal. Well, definitely thank you for your service for all those years, both when you were in the military and your contracting service. It's a huge part of who you are. It's what brought you to the Northwest, and I'm sure glad for that because it's landed us in our friendship.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, and meeting you has been a highlight of life for sure.
Well, unless you got anything else you want to add about your military service, why don't we just go ahead and jump right into what made you decide to start filming your hunts? And you could probably throw in why turkeys into all that. Essentially, right. your origin story for the Northwest Spur Chasers.
Well, filming hunts, it didn't start right away, but I got into turkey hunting out here, and I immediately became a passion. I mean, I was enjoying big game out here already, but I just didn't really get involved in the turkey at that point in time. And I finally got to a point in my career where I could get out and enjoy the outdoors without being sent overseas as much. So it gave me time. It reignited a passion I had from the time I was a kid. At that time, I also knew a man that was from Kentucky, and he was a big time turkey hunter. And he's like, if you've never done turkey, you've got to do that. He's like, you're already successful at deer, elk, and bear. And he goes, but you haven't tried turkey. And I'm like, didn't sound like it would be all that exciting until I went out and gobble in the woods. And from that point on, it was epic. My very first ever turkey hunt was a great harvest and an amazing bird, one of the best ones still. But learning a little bit from him and then getting in and being a part of that passion and just hearing that gobble. I mean, it's like, as we talk about it, it's the best elk hunt you can ever go on because they're always hot and they're always fired up. In fact, you get to communicate with them. I mean, that's primarily what turkey hunting to me is. Just everyone who's addicted to it knows it's a great passion to get into.
Absolutely. I mean, you get 2 tags. The pack out's easy. It's actually really easy. I know some people are probably going to be like, you're full of it. But maybe back east with spookier birds, I don't know. But out here, it's easy to do with friends. I mean, we've gone out in some pretty big groups and found success, and it's just always a good time. I know spring turkey hunts is definitely something that I look forward to from the day that the season ends. So I'm right on board with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to love it. And and we do the same, we don't do the standard turkey hunt that a lot of people do. A lot of people will find an easy place to get in on birds. I mean, I think it's just our core nature, military, and our love for the hike that you and I will, and a lot of us will go the distance. And it's not unusual to get a 12 to 20 mile turkey hunt. Not so much because we need to. We could always hunt a lot closer and a lot faster, but it's the joy of getting up high and going far and feeling like you really put your effort in and looking for that one voice that you hear in the distance. That's like, wow, okay, that's a big bird.
Right. I think most people would agree that as much as hunting is about the harvest and filling freezers, and we all agree it's about the journey and the adventure and seeing new places. And we can go hunt turkeys in agricultural areas here. And I think we all have permission. Well, we all, as in you and I, and maybe some of our friends, permission to go hunt on some farm fields. And we could do that and we could be very successful. But who wants to look at the same ag field every day? I mean, unless you're chasing like a 200-inch whitetail back east, I would probably look at the same farm field for a few days for that. But I mean, we get out, we get in the country where you're seeing elk and bears and moose. I mean, we've seen it all when we're turkey hunting. I mean, you had an epic experience this spring where you had or was that was last spring where you had that a bear walk right up to you and Jagger? I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
awesome, especially here in the West where we have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many opportunities. I mean, and we're out there, we're scouting for elk half the time anyway, because we're in the same locations in the same dense forest. A lot of it, like your bird this past season, that was a total elk grove. I mean, that was
Yeah.
an epic bird, man. We had to put the sneak in on him. I mean, that's going to be a good video too. I'm looking forward to producing it, but it just goes to prove I'm like, yeah, this is exactly where I would be if I wanted to kill an elk too. It was a great spot. But you mentioned, why filming? That was one of your questions, and I'll go back on that just for a moment.
Yeah.
I got into it, loved it, and of course, being raised to start hunting around the age of 10, I did the same thing with both my girls. They hit the age of 10, we started hunting. They had a lot of fun, and we had a great time as a family. My wife has hunted turkeys and everything else too. And after doing this a little bit, being on YouTube, I'm like, man, I need to grab a camera because we don't have any of our family out here. No one's seeing the kids. I could start filming other things, and I could at least post it up on YouTube because YouTube was still kind of up and coming at that time. And I said, yeah, let's do this. So, a little bit of pre-production and terrible videos and terrible calling, but a whole lot of fun. And the family got to watch the kids and see what we're doing. And from there, it just spiraled into more and more and more. And for me, it's a lot of, I would call it artistic creativity. Videoing is because that's kind of my brain anyway, growing in a family of artists in different forms and fashions. To me, jumping on video, a lot of people say, man, you put too much in your videos. I'm like, yeah, but I'm having fun. I don't really care if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But I'm having fun building it because it gives me a creative push out basically for my life.
Absolutely. I can understand that, especially from like the writing aspect. I can understand, I like to write. You've done, a couple magazines, published articles and stuff like that. And
yeah, you've done good with that.
And I mean, I'm not out there to try to get famous, which neither are you. I think that's kind of what makes you special. But it is a creative outlet, and I enjoy the storytelling aspect of videoing, even though I don't video, but I think that's what I understand from it. Like, I empathize and appreciate the storytelling and the creativity. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, was to be able to tell stories, my stories, other stories. So yeah, it's fun. And it is fun having sat down and starting to teach myself how to edit these podcasts, which is probably easier than video, but still it takes some doing, but it is fun. I am liking it. So I get that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Great opportunities. And, the other aspect that we always talk about is the camaraderie and the fact that we get to meet some amazing people along the way. And doing social media is a double-edged sword. I mean, you love it and you hate it at the same time. The love of it has been meeting some of the best people ever in my life, yourself included. And then, the hate part is that you got to put effort into it. You have to kind of constantly get rid of the trash. You have to be involved. I'm not trying to be a professional in that sense. I'm not trying to make a living off of it. So I think that allows me to enjoy it a little bit more. It's almost gotten to the point where it's not enjoyable, but I'll try to keep it on the edge of that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I know you could definitely go as far as you want. I think you're at that point, and I respect why you don't go that route as far as monetizing stuff like that. Sometimes once it becomes a job, it takes all the fun out of it. You've already had some stuff go on where you're like, well, this maybe isn't so much fun going this far, but you're all right. It is the social media thing, as far as what we do, is a necessary evil. I hate it, but if it wasn't for social media, Instagram specifically is, it is what it is. Yeah. I'm not a fan of the entity Instagram, but if it wasn't for Instagram, we wouldn't have connected ever.
Right.
Wouldn't have connected with a lot of people that I've connected with. So it is a good networking tool, and it's something that you have to be able to utilize if you're going to make it in the modern world professionally. It just is what it is. I think podcasting and YouTube and those outlets are a part of that. So here we are, we're making it happen, and you just make the best of it. I think my only complaint is my self-discipline. I catch myself on those dang death scrolls. My wife Jody and I were joking this afternoon. We were sitting there, or no, it was this morning, sitting on the couch and having coffee. And she's like, we were talking about death scrolling, and she's like, are you death scrolling? I said, no, I'm just looking at, I think I was looking at real estate or something. And I put my phone down, I'm drinking my coffee, assuming that means she wanted to have a conversation. I look over and she's scrolling through Facebook, and I'm death scrolling. She's like, dang it. She threw her phone down. She's like, it got me again.
Boy.
I heard a poem the other day And I'm not going to repeat it because it has some foul language, but it's pretty funny. And the gist of it is this guy says, today I replaced my phone with a twig. And he says, that's right, an effing twig. But the gist of the poem is he spent the day without his phone and he reconnected to himself and felt recharged at 24 hours without a phone and having a twig in his hand instead, connected to nature. And for me, that was enlightening because every time I go in the wilderness, that's how I feel, even if it's just for a day with no cell service.
Right.
But it was a tangent on death scrolling and phones. And
that's easy to do, boy. I tell you, you're totally accurate in that regard. It's so easy to get sucked into that and have it become too much. And it's kind of interesting though. Since I retired, I find myself wanting to do it way less than when I was working. I almost have to force myself to do it right now. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. You're just enjoying being a free man.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out still.
Well, like we said, if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't have connected and done the things we've done, which kind of leads me into the next thing I wanted to ask you about is just how did you get involved with taking veterans hunting? Because that is where we really connected and from the roots which our friendship grew.
Sure. Well, I mean, it kind of spiraled out of a couple things. Initially, I got to a point where I really fully understood our local birds extremely well. Easy, but it was very predictable in that sense. And I started to, get further into social media and started meeting more people, and a lot of people were having a hard time. And I don't know, it's kind of the way I was raised. You get, you give back. And I saw opportunities as my girls got older, they were kind of moving in a different direction. And not only the fact that you get to have more tags to go out with more people, but we won't say that that's really important. I'll just say that it gave me an opportunity to try to spread the wealth and help other people who are maybe having a hard time. And a good friend of mine that was in the military was a part of the Fallen Outdoors. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yep.
There's so many different groups that do veteran stuff. And so I think one of my first ever, military type hunts, other than taking military guys out from the base that just needed a break, was working with the Fallen Outdoors. I did some work with them for a while. I enjoyed that. It was fun. I mean, there's a pro and con to all of that. And then I met you, met on an elk hunt and some guys tagging me, asking questions, and it turned out to be you. And the next thing I know, I'm getting invited to be a part of a veterans camp, and boom, 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 on and on it went. It just kept spiraling. And the opportunity to, obviously we have a passion for vets because we are them. I have a passion from my childhood of growing up around it, and not just with my dad, but his buddies as well, since there was always big gatherings for the 10th Mountain Division. And just seeing a lot of guys that were in a difficult way of life, you see opportunity to reach out and want to be a part of helping them grow, heal in the woods. And we know from I've spent the amount of time in the woods that we do, that it brings healing to us, for a lot of different reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, just thinking about when we have taken veterans out, and it's cool because, this year marked our 5th time doing a turkey camp for veterans. And obviously I'm sure we'll talk more about that, especially as next year rolls around, next turkey season. But we took veterans and their kids out. So we did a youth hunt for veterans kids this spring, and that was a lot of fun. But one of the first camps that we did, it was the first or second, we had a veteran there that, and I won't obviously disclose his identity, but he had come up to me, and I think maybe you were with me, but he came up at the end of the camp and he said, this is exactly what I needed to save my life. And when he explained about what he meant, he had described a moment where he was quite literally thinking about suicide, had taken a walk into the woods and with a pistol, and he had intended to end his life. And he said that day that his dog, who had joined him on that final walk, was what saved his life when it licked his hand and looked at him. And he kind of said, no, I'm not going to do it. Shortly thereafter, he got the invite to come to this camp, which we had no idea that this had taken place. He hadn't talked about it before. And that guy, he's got some physical health struggles, but his mental strength and well-being and his ability to deal with his physical health struggles right now, absolutely incredible. And, he's a vibrant, fun to be around guy. But that was a moment that cemented to me the benefit of the outdoors and the healing power of nature. There's a reason why it's healing, and we're designed for that. And I'm like you, I think you've inspired me that I just feel an overwhelming need to give back, because if it wasn't for guys like you taking me out, I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I feel kind of obligated to pay it forward myself. But yeah, it's been quite a journey that we've gone on, and it's been fun to share it with you.
Absolutely. And I think you hit a key word when you said we're designed that way, because I know we both look at this as it's also very much so a faith-based initiative, as well as it is a military and veteran initiative. And that's really important to both of us, I know.
Absolutely. So, I want to take this kind of stuff. I think you and I have talked about a bunch, is taking in new avenues, including first responders in our camps
Yeah.
and doing some stuff with some faith-based organizations. But it's just continuing to grow, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do with it going forward.
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard. People don't realize the amount of effort that goes into these camps sometimes. It's taxing. There's a lot of reaching out that goes on. There's a lot of planning, a lot of activity behind the scenes, the food, everything. It's just like any camp. It's just a lot that goes into it. You don't think it, every year you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this again. And then the year comes around and you're energized back up. You're like, yeah, let's do another one. We got to do this because, like you said, we've heard stories from different people that have been part of the camps. And we know for a fact it's saving a life. And when you see that, it makes it really hard to say, no, I don't want to do it. So,
and I know we've left some camps sometimes, it's just, it takes a lot out of us. It takes, obviously it's a week of our time, but then there's the planning and everything that goes into it and the setup. And it's been nice because we got to kind of tap into some of our resources with, the Armed Forces Initiative over at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. And
yeah, that was good.
They took the helm last year and we did it over in Washington. That was super helpful, but it's taxing to do these camps. And, but I mean, sometimes I think that's the point of volunteering, right? Like we're not supposed to give because it's easy. We're supposed to give, right, especially when it's hard.
Sure. Not being shot at, and I don't have a 100-pound pack on my back, so I'm not going to complain too much.
There you go. And yeah, we get to go outdoors and spend time doing one of our favorite things with really incredible people. I mean, we've been lucky that we've had so many great people come to camp. Not a lot of folks I wouldn't have back.
For sure. Yeah, you just don't know where it's all going to go.
But yeah, so, obviously veterans is a big deal, but we took out some kids this spring that youth hunt, and the last few youth seasons we've made it a point to get either a veteran and bring their kid along, just unrelated to a camp, or maybe a local first responder and their kid. And we've actually had a lot of fun and a lot of success doing youth hunts. But there's something special about youth hunts, and I'm just curious, is what is it for you that makes you keep taking kids out? Because you get pretty daggone busy between Washington and Idaho's youth seasons.
Yeah, to me, it's probably one of my biggest passions for any type of hunting is to be a part of another father-son or father-daughter type opportunity. I think for me, it brings back a lot of memories, from my own kids. I enjoy teaching one form or another, and I tend to have a reasonable amount of patience with kids. So it's just a really special time to watch that relationship grow between a father and a child. And so if I can be a part of it and help them down that road a little ways, I give them some tools to work with, it gives back, I think, more to me than it does to them sometimes, both in memories as well as watching them create their own memories. And then I get a chance to film it for them. And that's been fantastic too, because then I give it to them and they can always look back on it. Because I know as a dad, I cherish the small films I have of my own kids. And so I know if I'm able to give that back to a dad that he can have at some point to look back on too, could be very important for him and their child. I don't know what's going to happen in their family down the road. So, I mean, there's just a lot of, different aspects to it. And I think just the passion of seeing a brand new hunter get out there, especially any of us who've done hunting, all I can say is instead of just pulling the trigger yourself all the time, and I know that becomes really important and you want to fill that tag, but man, if you take a youth out or you take a dad and a youth out and you see that joy on their face just explode and just the awe, the moment of walking up to their kill and being a part of it, it's so much more rewarding than pulling the trigger yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing better than watching a kid on their first successful hunt. And there's nothing better too, on top of that, than a kid who earns it and maybe has some struggle to get there. And I just think of Bodie and his dad, that came out to turkey camp this year. I mean, we hiked that kid's butt off.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And to get his first turkey, we hustled up a mountain, and it was truly a mountain. And he never complained, and he got up that mountain and he got it done, made a shot and got himself a turkey. But the sense of accomplishment that was on his face and in his voice was unbelievable, because I don't think it was lost on him that he had a right to be proud of climbing that mountain and getting that bird after hiking for days. And
Right.
if anybody that's listening that's hiked with you knows that hiking for days with you is hiking. It's in climbing. It is not a leisurely hike. So,
Yeah, that kid, he was grinding, man. That was super steep, super hard, and really hard on the two of them, but they did not complain one iota. And I'm like, if you just keep pushing it, you're gonna get to the right spot. And man, that was awesome.
yeah, I can't wait for that video. And I definitely hope that we get to have them back out to hunt with them again, because they're a good
Yeah,
couple of
good people.
dudes. Uh,
Absolutely.
and it'll be fun when we do the video. I don't know if we're going to talk about Bodie's knife injury, but he was our excitement as far as injuries and ER visits for the
Yeah,
for
no
the
kidding.
camp.
Oh my gosh, you don't know what's gonna happen when you got a youth out. That's for sure.
Yeah, which man, I have got episode upon episode that I plan on doing about medical stuff, by the way, because
Yeah, no
things
kidding.
happen with kids and adults when we have sharp objects in our hands. You also have learned that lesson in my garage.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like sticking a knife in your arm, helping a buddy cut up a deer. Trying to
All right. So, anyways, we took a quick break. So, we had left off talking about youth hunts, and that was really awesome. I mean, we got stories,
absolutely.
and I'm really looking forward to, as we roll into next spring, we'll dive into turkey hunting tactics. We'll tell more stories. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to get into something that I just think is really important for people to hear about, because one, he's an amazing young man, and having had a chance to meet him in person and talk to him on the phone fairly often, he's become a very positive influence in my life because his attitude is just above reproach. And then on top of that, what you were able to accomplish for him has also been absolutely amazing and inspirational. And even though you've gotten it accomplished and he has the gear, the story needs to be told, because I just think people need to hear it. So I'm talking, obviously, who I'm talking about, but I'm talking about Jagger. So why don't you kind of give us an introduction of who Jagger is and how you met him? And we will absolutely have Jagger on the podcast. So Jagger, I'm sure you're going to be listening because you've already talked to me about it, but you are going to be on the podcast. I promise, buddy. You're going to be a star guest.
Absolutely. Yeah. How could you have a podcast without him? It's a lot of fun. I've been on a couple with him already too. But so your question is, who is Jagger? I'm assuming to some degree.
Yeah. Who is Jagger?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Jagger, I met him one of those random meetings on Instagram. Yeah, there's a lot of people always making contact on Instagram. I try not to ignore anyone, and we say hi and have a small conversation. But anyone who is currently now connected with Jagger knows that doesn't just happen. It's never a small conversation. After a while, I started talking back to him quite a bit more, and you don't know who somebody is on the other end. And eventually it became obvious to me that there's a little more to this young man, because I started asking him questions about himself, and come to find out he was born with spina bifida. If you don't know what it is, you can look it up. But basically, he's paralyzed from the waist down primarily. And, he had crutches to get himself around, and he's kind of stuck at home. But this young man, and he's roughly 21 years old right now, he doesn't let anything stop him. And that's what really impressed me, because he started sending me pictures of his mountain lion hunt where, you and I, we would get out there and we'd be complaining about having maybe wet socks or something. But Jagger's out there dragging himself physically through the snow by his hands in deep Montana mountain snow, going over and down and sliding through things because his legs aren't working, and then just clawing himself along to get where he needs to get to next so he can get in position to make a shot. Stuff like that. And then he elk hunts, and then he deer hunts. And his greatest passion, and no one can deny that, is turkey hunting. Of course, that was a hard connection to make, but, I worked on it. Anyway, we spoke for a couple of years, I think, and I finally said to myself, man, I have got to get up there. And I asked him, do you mind if I tell your story in the most, personal way? I want to really show people who you are. I've never met him, but I had a good feeling about, who he was. And his Uncle Jeff is another side to this whole thing, and we'd have to go deep into that too. But his Uncle Jeff, who we all get to say, he's Uncle Jeff. I call him Uncle Jeff as well. He's a real saint and helps Jagger out all the time. But anyway, I got done with the Phelps camp last year, and I just kept going. I went up to Liberty, Montana, and met Jagger for the first time. And it's on film. If you have time to go watch it, there's a part one and a part two. And a lot of people, I think they get to the end of part one and see that we're kind of doing, or they get to the other part and see that we're doing a talking points with Jagger. There's more too. You need to watch the whole film through to really get an understanding of everything he goes through. And, I got up there and met them for the first time and introduced. And of course, Uncle Jeff is going to go out with us too, because we're going out in the middle of nowhere in the outback of Montana. And I'm taking this young man with me, and they don't know who I am. So, Jeff was he's like, who's this guy that's taking my nephew out? So I got to meet him. I got to meet his grandfather. We had a good time. They're like, why are you here? Why do you want to do this? And I'm like, I just enjoy meeting people. And they were just a little bit suspicious up front, and good, for good reason. Absolutely. I mean, here's this young man. I'm some guy, what you do for a living. But it didn't take long for them to realize it was a genuine thing. And I just wanted to be out there to tell his story. And I had some great time in the Montana outback with him and his uncle. And yeah, we had a bear almost walk up to us, and that was a pounder of a bear, man. It's in the video too, that bear walking in. But I got to meet Jagger. I got to see and hear his heart. I got to see his struggle up close and personal. I filmed as much of it as I thought was doable without going too far. And there's always more behind the scenes, but it kind of told the story of the struggle that he goes through physically. And when I got done meeting him and got to really see his heart even more so than what I already believed was there, and got to see what the family deals with and how much they go through, and the fact that he's stuck at home for the most part. Everybody goes to work, and Jagger can't take off across town. It's a lot of work for him to pull himself along. So, right. And seeing him do it in the woods was epic. And so I got that on film. Everybody should watch it. It'll let you touch base with him. But after I got back, I talked to you, and I was like, man, as much as you try to explain who someone is to another person, like I tried to with you, I'm like, when you get a chance to meet this guy, and you did, I'm like, the connection will happen, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You can talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
You met Jagger, no matter what I told you, is one thing.
Right. Yeah. He is an epic personality, to say the least. And you were 100% right. And I believed you for sure, but it took me a while to get an opportunity to meet Jagger. In fact, it was just this last winter when I was out mountain lion hunting, up in the far reaches of the North Idaho Panhandle. Just my hound dogs and I were out. It's just the three of us. Didn't have a lot going on, and I had been wanting to meet Jagger for a while. I had something I wanted to give him too, the red dot first shotguns. Connected with him and agreed that I would come over to where he lives over in Montana one afternoon when it got slow on the mountains. Didn't have a busy day on the mountain, unfortunately, this last season. So it was easy to sneak away, and we did. And when I got over there and got to meet him in person, it's not that you didn't describe it well. It's just words can't describe him well enough. You just got to meet the guy. He's a fantastic human being, and he's well worth it, as far as all the effort, his attitude. He's just, despite the challenges, which are far beyond anything that I've ever experienced. I've never, and hopefully never will be, paralyzed. And he is more motivated and passionate, I feel like, than I ever have been. I mean, it's unreal. He's an incredible guy. It's infectious to be around him. And he loves himself some turkey hunting, and you can look him up and connect with him if you want to. And I would suggest it because the guy just loves making friends. But his Instagram handle is at Turkey Slayers 406. Turkey Slayers 406, and he's an awesome fella. But follow him and see what's up. And you talked about the mountain lion hunt with him, and I can tell you, folks, if you're listening and you've never been involved in a lion hunt, especially, I would imagine it's similar anywhere, but here in the wintertime when we hunt cats in the snow, they are not easy hunts. We typically are chasing these cats. First, we're following hound dogs that are running and athletes in their own right. And we're going up and down these steep drainages, making 1,000-foot drops and 1,000-foot climbs. And, you're hoping that when you step in the 2-foot snow that you don't go between some downfall and snap your leg. And it's not easy. So I just can't imagine being paralyzed from the waist down and dragging myself through the country up here to chase mountain lions and hound dogs. So to put some context into what he goes through. And you got to watch the video, folks, because I'll tell you, my wife and I watched the video before it aired. We got lucky because we got the in, but we were I was following the Super Bowl a couple years ago, right? And we watched that video. My wife and I both were moved to tears over watching Jagger hunt, and it's just because of how hard it was for him, and it was obvious how hard it was for him. But he never complained, not one time. So that was my experience with Jagger so far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, getting to be a part of that and the excitement. I mean, we get excited when we have a good, successful turkey hunt, but man, when Jagger gets excited, it's epic. It's awesome. And I have another video to put out. We had a great time hunting in Idaho with him this year. And it was extremely successful again, a very blessed time. So that'll be coming out eventually here. I'll get it put together. Yeah. So with all that in mind, and I came back and I just started pondering on like, what more can I do? I mean, I built a video. I got a chance for people to see who Jagger is, but I need to do more than this. And, my wife, she's worked with a lot of disabled people in her life. And she's like, we need to get them some type of transportation. I'm like, yeah, transportation. I'm like, there's a lot of different ways of doing that. So I just started scouring the internet, looking at what do people have available out there. And I'm thinking, what company? And then I started talking to different companies and doing what we do, how we get sponsors or how we get people to help us out in our hunting community. And I ended up connecting with one specific company, even though there's lots of choices. I was trying to find one that would be reasonably affordable and reliable at the same time. And so shout out to Utah Trikes while we're on the podcast here. They, do a lot of trike work. And so they were helping another company put together a quad that's all electric for people who need it. And then they went one step further and made it more capable than it was before. And I figured they had lots of experience. I called them up. They agreed to help out. They were excited about it. And, then I reached out to the hunting community. That was a lot of work. I got to be honest. I'm like, we'll do a fundraiser. I'd never done a real hardcore fundraiser before. And I realized that takes a lot of beating on doors, basically. And not that people don't want to do it, but you have to let them try to understand what's behind it, what the passion is, and try to let them kind of feel what's going on. And I got to put another huge shout out to not just the hunting community, but the call maker community, especially. A lot of good people, and I say thank you right now to anyone who's listening that contributed in any form or fashion. Thank you so much. And it would take forever to go through the list of names of people that contributed both financially with cash as well as financially with time and other aspects. James Harrison, good friend of ours, Great friend of mine, best friend, Harrison Hooters. James is so connected in the world out there of call making. He immediately said, hey, I'm going to start reaching out to all my buddies. Well, when James says that, it's a huge world. So he definitely reached out, and the call making community came together and pushed us over the edge into being able to appropriately afford this vehicle, maxed out, for Jagger, and we were able to make it happen. In the end, we ended up with a little extra cash. We were able to buy him some license and tags in Idaho, Washington as well. And, there's a little bit more. I'd say we're about expired on the amount that's left over, but if he needs a battery or something, we could probably help him out. But the company is keeping an eye on him. They're taking care of him. They're already giving him upgraded components, which is awesome. They're willing to do that. They're like, hey, man, we made a brand new brain for this, and it's going to make it even better than it was. So we're going to send you one. I mean, that kind of stuff costs money. And they're keeping an eye on him, which is really awesome. And it says a lot for Utah Trikes. So sorry, long-winded, but
no,
I'll stop.
Oh, it's awesome. And you could keep going, honestly, right? There's so much to the story, and we'll get Jagger on, but it's a beautiful success story in a time where I think we need this kind of story. We need to see people coming together to do good things. And usually when we see people come together, it's related to tragedies, like extreme tragedies, right? Like what we just experienced here in Coeur d'Alene with our firemen, and, down in Texas. Well, finally, this is something that, a great story that I'm excited to share, just because it's people coming together. It didn't have to be a tragedy, although somebody is overcoming some difficulties. But I think if you ask Jagger, he's not going to say that his life has been a tragedy. I think he's would tell you his life has been full of blessings. So
Yeah, he's very inspirational. I mean, he's the one that goes around in his town in Libya and is like, get out and do things. Don't sit home. Don't become a couch potato. Look at me. He's like, I still make my way around. And now he's really harassing people because he can drive there. It wasn't just giving him transportation in the woods to go turkey hunting. A lot of people were thinking now, well, that guy will be able to go hunting. I'm like, no, this guy can now get up in the morning, jump in this thing. It's got almost like 100-mile range. It's unbelievable. And he can take off down the road and go meet his boys and friends for coffee and donuts or whatever and breakfast. He's been going out to like a men's breakfast. He's been going down the road to his uncle's farm and taking care of the horses when his uncle's gone. I mean, stuff he's never been able to do. He's been stuck in the house because everyone's working. He can't just get around. But now he's getting around. So we've done a lot, and I'm really excited that he's able to get around.
Talk about life changing. Well, so it's awesome. But, well, I mean, that's probably, we're getting close to an hour now. And I mean, there's so much about Northwest Spur Chasers that we could go into. And I'm glad that we're buddies and we can do more of these. But just real brief, I mean, we know a little bit about where Northwest Spur Chasers started. But what is in the future for John and Northwest Spur Chasers? Because now you're fully retired. I know that you've got some other filmmaking type of things that you're interested in doing, and maybe we'll get to see more of Don and some of that. I don't know. What do you got going on?
I knew you were going to ask this question. And, it's a really difficult one to answer, to be honest, to some degree, because I go in so many different directions with this myself, as you well know. One thought, and, I got a few people spurring me on, not just you, but others as well. I mean, having worked with Phelps Game Calls, having worked with others as well, there's just a lot of avenues. One I'm playing with right now is making my own line of calls. Whether I'm working with somebody else on that, we'll have to see. So I'm kind of toying with that back and forth, what it'll become or what it'll do. I don't know yet. I don't have an answer for that exact item. Another item is, I'm retired. Dawn and I would really like to do a little more traveling and, the vehicle we kind of put together. And we have moved into a carnivore lifestyle, which is a whole podcast in itself, probably.
Yep.
And all of that. So we kind of want to travel around, and we want to hit up a lot of, local farms across the country. And I do a lot of farm to table type stuff and some videos with that and be a part of that community. So we're kind of going to tie some of that together. And I was talking to another good friend of mine that I was in the military with. And, he's kind of moving towards the direction of retirement. We were talking about some of these things. I know you and I haven't had a chance to really chat with it. I kind of kept this little text he wrote back to me, and he's like, personally, unless you need the money, I'd spend time with your wife. You've given time away to others your whole life. Enjoy your healthy years now, and don't trade time for money any longer. I'm like, ooh, that kind of cuts. I mean, there's something to be said about that. But so I'm pondering all these ideas. And yeah, I mean, if I could jump into making calls and doing other things and then maybe progress with a line of stuff, how many more years do I have? Turn 62 here. And you look at how many summers are left with that. I don't know. I can't answer that. Maybe only one. Who knows what's going to happen? A bear might eat me this year. But realistically, there's a lot of options in this. And so I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. I'll keep filming up, keep putting some stuff out there and doing what we do and continue to progress with the veterans camps without a doubt, because I love that. There's a passion about it. Part of me would love to pull out of social media and disappear in the backwoods altogether, which I know you've talked about a few times yourself even. But, I'll just have to be honest with you. It's going to take a little bit to figure this out. I just retired, so my mind races in all these different exciting ideas. And somehow I'll keep praying about it, and we'll tie it all together, and we'll see what it becomes. But the answer definitively, I can't do that just yet. I'll just say there's more to come.
Classic line. Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that answer at all. It's funny. Obviously, I think you and I are alike in a lot of ways, but another one of those things is it seems like no matter how old we get, we don't know what we want to be when we grow up. I definitely, as go back and forth on staying in my current career, which I do love and have a passion for serving my community in that regards. Also a sense of duty to do it, because I can, but also balancing that with, new passions. And I also understand, probably because I've been faced with my own mortality a few too many times, is that I agree. I mean, even though I'm not 62, I'm in my late 30s now, but I also always wonder, like, man, you don't know how many more summers you get or tomorrows you get. And there's other avenues I think in life that are worth exploring, but even more so, I think we both serving God through our faith, but spending time with family. And I know both of our wives would never be upset to have us around a little bit more often. So I think your friend's onto something, but so I would just hope that if you stick around, you balance it with that. I do hope that you stick around in some capacity, but I know you will as far as we haven't seen our last turkey season.
That's for sure. I can't see that happening. I could probably give up everything else, but I couldn't give up turkey season.
Yeah. I mean, and carnivore has really added an interesting twist, and we'll definitely have to do a podcast on that because it's changed my physical life, as far as my physical health and as well as yours, and especially Dawn's is a miraculous story in its own right. But
absolutely.
That's kind of changed your perspective on hunting from the food gathering sense, hasn't it? Because you're not as interested, having pursued things. And I think you're finding that you just want to venture into new things on top of you're looking for that fatty beef. And so ordering a whole cow from a local farmer that does grass-fed organic beef suits your dietary needs a little bit more than that lean wild game meat that we like to go and chase.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I still love hunting. I think of grabbing my bow, although I'm working through a shoulder injury right now, so I really can't throw my bow like I'd like to. So I got to get that done first anyway. I don't really want to pick up a rifle, but I suppose I might just because it's fun still too. But yeah, I mean, like you said, that's a whole show in itself. Yeah, I don't have as much desire to be doing it for the sake of feeding the table. And in the past, it's always been a great way to put food on the table, and it still is for everybody who does it. And I still love eating it. I gotta be honest, I love myself a good whitetail. It's like a bear. You can do so much with it. I miss having some nice big smokies from the bear too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'm looking forward to my mule deer steak tonight for sure.
There you go.
And yeah, I'm very out of.
Lewis and Clark had a good point in some of their books, and they're like, we almost starved to death with full stomachs. Like, yeah, there's no fat on these things. You better be adding some.
Yeah, it's a true story for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to my mule deer steak tonight. And as far as bows, I love archery hunting, but I'm out of practice. And this year I'm all for rifle. I will bow hunt again, but it'll probably be next year. This year it's all rifle hunting for me. So I got bit by the bug of heading down to some other parts of Idaho that I will not mention publicly right now.
Dare.
But yeah, I'm excited to go do some rifle hunts this fall for sure. But awesome. I definitely feel you on that fatty, and we got a quarter beef this year and it's been amazing, but that's starting to go off on a big tangent. So
yep. Save that for another show.
Yeah. But John, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time to talk to me. It's nice to catch up with you too, because we haven't had a chance in our busy lives lately.
I know we're like 40 minutes away and it's so hard to get together.
I drive by our house almost every day when I go to work.
Yeah.
But any concluding thoughts that you'd like to share before we get out of here?
Take a youth hunter hunting, find a kid that doesn't have a dad, and make a point, because they're there. They're all around us. That's my big passion always. Be willing to share what you've learned and don't hide it, because there's enough woods out there for all of us to share. And there's enough game to go around as well. You can be, smart about it, as we all know. But don't just keep it to yourself, because you'll find giving stuff away is a lot more fun than keeping it for yourself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And on that note, like I said earlier, I always feel obligated because of what people have done for me. You've taken really good care of me and taught me so much. I've also had my good friend Jason mentor me early on. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had my first successful hunt, which we're going to actually be talking about, or you guys would just have heard the story when this comes out, because that's going to be the first episode.
Awesome.
Obviously, I gave it away. We're recording several before it launches on August 15th. But yeah, so when this comes out, you guys will already heard that story. But that story of Jason mentoring me and getting that bear with my bow wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for somebody taking the time, sharing their knowledge. And, my buddy Chad, who I went hunting with last year for mule deer, who gave us his property for the turkey camp this last spring, and who I'll be hunting with again for elk and deer this fall. My first elk was largely contributed to his mentorship as well. So I think it's important that when you've been taken care of, like you said, to pay it forward and give back.
Yep.
And my last concluding thought on that is if somebody takes you under their wing, be a good mentee and respect where they're taking you and respect the knowledge that they're sharing with you. Don't spot burn them and be respectful. Maybe buy that person some dinner or coffee or, I don't know if I should say alcohol, but whatever their thing is, take care of that person and treat them like a good friend that they are.
There you go. Yeah. Be a good friend and recognize the blessing that's being shared.
Yeah. Speaking of friends, blessing you with good times, we're overdue for a fishing trip.
Absolutely overdue for a fishing trip. We got to get together, and fall's coming too.
Yeah, we'll go fishing on Liberty Lake. Liberty Lake, everybody. They're the best.
Yeah, that's the only place we ever go to.
Yeah, the biggest trouts.
Absolutely.
Right on. Well, and that's actually Liberty Lake, Maine, as well. We're kind of
like and that's where we only hunt turkeys in Maine all the time too.
Yeah. Man, that was so funny when people saw that video of the elk that I put on, and I was like, "Oh, look! I who thought there were elk in Maine."
I know. Well, hey, I want to thank you for inviting me on the show, Tom. I'm looking forward to the success of this, and if I can help it get spurred further, no pun intended. Hopefully, it will do just that. And one quick thing: don't forget Turkey Slayers 406 and hi Jagger. I never said that. I'll leave it.
All right. Well, thank you, John, and much appreciated because you're always there for me. So thank you very much, and we will talk soon.
All right, buddy. It was an honor. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate you having me on.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.